There is a specific kind of frustration that arises when you see complex, multi-layered centuries of human civilization flattened into a comic book narrative of us versus them. I recently watched Reymond Ibrahim's appearance on the Triggernometry podcast, titled The Real History of Islam. Ibrahim speaks with the confidence of a man who has solved the riddle of the universe. To him, 1400 years of Islamic history is not a civilization, it is a crime scene. But history, when treated with the respect it deserves, rarely offers such clean lines. As someone who strives to view the world through the lens of absolute justice, a core principle of my faith, I feel compelled to write this post, not to attack the man, but to rescue the history he is suffocating. Here is why Ibrahim's narrative collapses under the weight of authentic scrutiny. The myth of the warlord prophet. Ibrahim begins his history with a classic sleight of hand. He admits Muhammad, peace be upon him, started as a peaceful preacher in Mecca, but claims that upon moving to Medina in 622 AD, he transformed into a warlord who raided everyone who did not submit. He asserts that Islam means submit or surrender to the Prophet's call, or face death. This is a breathtaking reduction of the constitution of Medina. When the Prophet arrived in Medina, he didn't establish a military dictatorship. He signed a secular contract with the Jewish tribes and pagan clans of the city. This document, widely acknowledged by historians as authentic, established a multi-religious state where all parties were bound to defend the city together. It guaranteed religious freedom, stating, "To the Jews their religion, and to the Muslims their religion." The battles Ibrahim waves away as raids were existential struggles for survival against a Meccan army that had traveled 200 miles to wipe the community out. Badr was a defense against an invading force. The trench was a siege against Medina. If the goal was either submit or die, why did the Prophet grant general amnesty to the people of Mecca when he finally returned? There were no mass executions, no forced conversions. Just a man forgiving the very people who had spent 2 decades trying to murder him. The Quranic permission to fight was revealed to protect all houses of worship, cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques, not just mosques. The sword was raised only against those who sought to destroy religious freedom itself. The Pact of Umar and the industry of humiliation. Ibrahim then moves to the treatment of non-Muslims, painting a dystopian picture of the dhimmi status. He cites the Pact of Umar as evidence that Christians were forced to live in humiliation, forbidden from building churches or showing crosses. Here is where the historian title starts to flake off. While Ibrahim presents this pact as a document signed by the second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, in the 7th century, academic consensus suggests otherwise. Historians like Albrecht Noth and Mark R. Cohen note that the restrictive version of the pact is likely a later fabrication, retroactively attributed to Umar I by later jurists to give their own discriminatory views legal weight. If you want the real history of Umar, look at his entry into Jerusalem in 638 CE. He was invited by Patriarch Sophronius to pray inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Umar refused. He famously told the Patriarch that if he prayed there, future Muslims might use it as an excuse to convert the church into a mosque. He prayed outside instead. That is the history Ibrahim glosses over. It doesn't fit the lion and zebra narrative if the lion is busy signing treaties guaranteeing the safety of the zebra's churches. The fake golden age of Islam. Perhaps the most cynical part of Ibrahim's thesis is his dismissal of the Islamic Golden Age. He argues that the scientific and philosophical achievements of the Abbasid era happened despite Islam, attributed solely to Persians, Christians, and Jews. This is an insult to the intellect of giants like Ibn al-Haytham, the father of optics. Ibn al-Haytham was not a closet secularist. He was a devout theologian who explicitly stated that his scientific inquiry was a form of worship. He wrote, "I constantly sought knowledge and truth, and it became my belief that for gaining access to the effulgence and closeness to God, there is no better way than that of searching for truth and knowledge." To claim that Islamic civilization contributed nothing but plunder is to erase centuries of human progress simply because it was written in Arabic script. It is an attempt to strip a civilization of its humanity to make it an easier target. Taqiyya, the boogeyman of the West. And of course, no revisionist history is complete without taqiyya. Ibrahim claims this doctrine allows all Muslims to lie, cheat, and deceive infidels as a stratagem of war. He suggests that Muslims in the West are essentially sleeper agents waiting for a signal. Let's be clear, taqiyya is a theological concept primarily found in Shia jurisprudence, permitting a believer to conceal their faith only if they face imminent death or torture. It is a dispensation for survival, not a license for conquest. In Sunni Islam, which the vast majority of Muslims follow, the concept is even more restricted, falling under idtirar, necessity, like eating pork to avoid starvation. It is not a 007 license to infiltrate Western societies and lie about your intentions. To suggest that millions of Muslims are living deep-cover lives of deception is not history, it is conspiracy theory. The danger of a single story. Ibrahim concludes that Islam is not compatible with the West and poses an existential threat. He mocks the idea of white guilt regarding colonialism, yet relies on a sanitized version of Western imperialism while demonizing Islamic history. The reality is that history is not a battle between a good civilization and a bad one. It is a complex tapestry of alliances, trade, mutual learning, and yes, wars, fought by people of all faiths for reasons of land, power, and ego. I believe that peace is only possible when we stop viewing our neighbors as existential threats and start viewing them as human beings. Injustice breeds radicalization. The lion Ibrahim fears is often created by the very dehumanization he peddles.